Good evening. Welcome inside the Hera Press Box. Couple things on our to-do list to take care of and talk about tonight. One of those, as the NWSL season starts in a couple days, we want to go over our preview, what we have, what our thoughts are of the rosters, what we're looking forward to, what we think about each of those rosters, and maybe what we expect for each of the teams. And then I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but the NCAA tournament, as it continues, we can have a look at our brackets and see how they are and what we expect here on out as we do enter the Sweet 16 this weekend.
You're frozen on me. You froze there for the past 5 seconds. What was that last part?
Good start.
Yeah.
As we start Sweet 16 action, women's.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we can talk something about that. First thing, we can go ahead and talk about NWSL. Yes. I asked you to have a word for each team, each of the 9 teams. And I did the same here, just a word, and then you asked back to me to have a player from each team that most excited to watch this season, and just somebody to pay attention to for one reason or the other. So should we go alphabetically here through the teams?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So first team is Chicago then, right?
Yeah.
Chicago. Okay. My word for Chicago is waiting. Waiting for this team to finally realize their potential. They've had the talent for the longest time now and have never been able to put it together. There are some changes this year on the roster that is a little bit of a shift in style for the Red Stars. So it'll be interesting to see Rory Dames, how he molds maybe his coaching style. Maybe this team fits him more, and maybe he's on the hot seat. So we'll see where that goes. Waiting to see what happens. Waiting, is this a team that finally gets the Red Stars over the hump?
I like that word. That's probably, if I went to have gone with the word that I'm about to go with, I would have gone with that same word. I went with depleted. So they've got a couple of key players that are injured. They're going to have a couple key players that are out on international duty. They're one of those teams that are kind of hurt by this international duty for the Australians and the Brazilians right away to begin the season. So those players won't be back. I do believe that lasts until the end of April. So I know that's got to be one of the biggest things on Rory's board, is to essentially be able to have a strong first month of the season without some key players. And then really, as far as injury goes, it depends on when those players are coming back.
Who's your player to watch there?
Player to watch there is Alyssa Nair. I know that I haven't been necessarily the biggest fan of hers. I do think that she has improved. I know that Rory says that her confidence has gotten higher. So I'm really hoping that this is her year, that she stands out, that she really shows that she is that number one keeper for the Red Stars and for the national team, especially for the national team.
You think they pull her if they don't win?
It depends. I don't think that they would pull her. I don't think that they would ever be in a situation where they would need to pull her. I think that would require essentially a mental meltdown from her, and I don't think that would happen.
Okay. So my player to watch in Chicago is Summer Green, a player that I've talked about to you definitely, maybe on here as well. Summer Green, who it's almost obvious to me, and I don't know why, but just the way that the situations Dames puts her into, and the way she's treated by whatever media that the Red Stars do gain. I think she is a Rory Dames player. I think she finds time on the field throughout the year, let alone when they're missing players and they're getting players off the bench like a Summer Green would be. But I think she has a tremendous impact on the team, and I expect a breakout year from her. And Lauren Caskey is another player on that roster that is going to earn minutes, and Red Stars have kept Green and Caskey around, and it's for this situation here, and I expect big things from both of those, especially Summer Green this year.
Mm-hmm.
Next team would be the Dash. My word for the Dash is what?
somehow we had the same word.
Okay. So it's either what or huh?
Yeah.
For me, I'm with what.
Yeah.
My player to watch is either Nichelle Prince or Rachel Daly. So I went with Rachel.
Yeah. Okay.
I I hope Nichelle can find enough chances to score, and I mean, I guess she should, but at the same time, the ball might be down at the other end of the field the entire game. And for that reason, I picked Rachel, because it's going to be her athleticism that gets her into that role as maybe the best defender on the team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. She's my player to watch as well for the team.
Yeah, so that might be another quick talking about them after the first month of play. We'll see. They play the Red Stars on Sunday, so that's a measuring stick to start off the season. Third team that we'll talk about here are the NC Courage. The word I have for them is steady. There's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of star potential, a lot of punch that obviously was on display last season, and it's just a matter of finding minutes for all those players, keeping them together, keeping them healthy. And if all those things happen, this is a top 2 or 3 team in the league, no doubt.
Yeah. And I'm glad you went first with this team, because I didn't do a one-word thing for them because I didn't have a word in my mind at the time. It was essentially, I said, it seems like they're always the favorite. People are always picking them, but then somehow during the season they're forgotten about. They're kind of just like this team that's really good. It's got a lot of talent on it, but they're kind of pushed to the wayside because they don't necessarily have that star-studded player that everyone knows their name type of team. So they're the underdogs, but really not the underdogs. So however you really want to word that.
Yeah, there were a couple of teams that I had thought about using the word lull, Lull, as in they're going to lull you to sleep, and you don't really realize that they're now up 3-0 on you, and you've never had a chance to be.
Yeah.
My player to watch in North Carolina, same player that I had wanted to cast my vote for MVP last year, McCall Zerboni. Does, compared to last year, what's her play this year? Does she stay there, which would be incredibly impressive, her being the veteran on that team? Do we see a slight decline? Can she elevate her play? And if she can elevate that, then that team's even better than what they are. And if she stays the same, again, they're top 2 or 3 in the league.
Yeah, I would say that my player to watch, or I guess players in a way, is who's going to win the keeper battle. And I think whoever wins that is going to be essentially your player to watch, keep your eye on, because I think that this is a team that where they have the ability, if a keeper is struggling 1 or 2 games, they have the capability of a backup that's could be a starting keeper in the league, so that keeper could end up getting pulled.
Next team to talk about, Orlando Pride. The word I have for them is forward. So we've talked about them maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, this massive amount of forwards on their team that deserve playing time.
Yeah.
Well, 5 of them that could all be starters in this league. And for that, my player to watch is Rachel Hill. How can she get minutes? She's going to have an impact. I know she's going to have an impact. How big is that impact going to be? And does she eventually, maybe in the course of this season, root out one of those players that they do have Sydney Leroux and Alex Morgan there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what type of impact that Rachel Hill can maybe have as a sub to start the season off, but I think have a big enough impact to deserve more minutes and earn them by the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think that I picked Electric, and I think that this team is one of the most exciting teams that is in the league right now. I think that the team is really stacked with talent. If you look at who they acquired Shalina, Poliana, Pickett, Coltmeyer, LaRue, Van Egmond, and Van Egmond is one of my players. That's the player to watch for me on that team, given she won't be with the team right off the bat. She'll be on international duty. But I think that this team, it's set up to win. It's going to be one of those teams just like Chicago that might have that first month of the season might be a little bit difficult for them. They've got a handful of Brazilians and Australians on the team, so they're going to be missing them for a big chunk of the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm. Next team, Portland Thorns. Word for them that I have is next. Next, as in you look at this roster and you see nothing but young players aside from Kristen Sinclair, who makes that average age like 35. One without her is like 20. Very young, very next generational team already.
Yeah.
Can all those players come together and grow throughout the year and reach their full potential within a season that they can? The player that I have is the epitome of that, and that is Ellie Carpenter, the 17-year-old Australian who's over to play defense on that Thorn back line. So her and now Emily Sonnet and Klingenberg and Mingus back there. Midge Purse is going to beg for minutes as well in that team, maybe push her up to the midfield. But that being a young back line and Ellie Carpenter bound to do big things in her soccer career.
Yeah, my word is pretty much based off of that. I said recovering, essentially rebuilding as well, kind of built within that. They got rid of some key players at least fan favorites, I guess. They acquired some great players. Unfortunately, Ford went down with really a terrible injury. I do believe they are expecting her to come back. I think it was June or July, which I would be a little bit surprised with, just depending on, I guess, how on rehab goes. I had a couple players to watch, and one of them was Ellie Carpenter, and then the other one was Emily Sonnet. I think those are the two players for me on this team that are going to be big. They've lost you there for a second. So Emily Sonnet and Ellie Carpenter have both been called up to their national teams. Sonnet for sure has made an impact, and I think Carpenter is pretty much on her way to being one of those superstar players.
Next team, Seattle Reign. Word I have for them is puzzle. There are a lot of pieces on this team that could come together and make a middle of the pack team. Lydia Williams in goal. Well, she'll be battling Michelle Betos. I haven't seen anything, but yeah, Lydia Williams I expect to be in goal with a potentially good defensive line. Steph Catley back there, who, as you've been pointing out, will mention some of the season as she's away with the Australian team. Midfield, Allie Long, Fishlock, Morgan Andrews, how do those all fit together? And the forwards, at some point, Rapinoe can't be superhuman like she's been for the last 5 years. When does that decline come? How does Jodie Taylor fit in? Bev Yanez, Jasmine Spencer, where do those players, what role do they assume? Are they the superstar talent that this team that Rapinoe and Taylor don't come together as well as they could, or on paper like they might?
Right. And I think I'm taking the positive twist of that, and I use the word dangerous for them, because if this puzzle can fit all together, there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't make the playoffs, why they shouldn't be in the NWSL championship game. this team has power on it. I mean, with the pickup of Catley, and I know that she's recovering, and then she'll be on international duty. We'll see. I'm very interested to see Allie Long's position within this team. I felt like last season with Portland, she didn't get a lot of minutes, whether that was based off of injury, not playing well, whatever, just not being great for the system there. Who knows? You know that I've turned the corner on really liking Fishlock. I really like Jody Taylor. But my player to watch is actually Lauren Barnes. I think she had a great W League season. So I am expecting her to put on essentially the same type of show in Seattle this season.
Mm-hmm. And my player to watch was Lydia Williams. How will she react if that defensive line doesn't flow together well? Does she have the same demise that she had in Houston? If they do gel together, does she continue to put up clean sheets like she can on the international level?
Yeah, essentially what she did last year for half a season with Seattle, or at least I thought she played well kind of the second half of that season when she went to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be interesting to see if Betos can kind of steal that starting position from her, because she'll be gone. Lydia will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, I guess.
For Sky Blue, I have the word complete for the Sky Blue team. I guess the reasons why I have that is you look up and down this roster, and the defenders maybe haven't had the greatest careers yet. I think I'm frozen.
Yeah.
There we go. But very good players. So Mandy Freeman, Christina Gibbons, Kayla Mills, all very good players there. Erica Skrosky coming over, Rebecca Stott, they're now on that roster. And then midfield, Lloyd's there, Raquel Rodriguez in the midfield, who would be my player to watch. And then forwards, Abom, Becky, Shea Groom.
Yep.
I think that is the most complete roster that I have looked at so far. Raquel Rodriguez being the player that I have to watch because she's just a tremendous talent, and on that roster, she's going to have a really good year.
Yeah, the word that I had was pieces, and essentially pieces of a puzzle, kind of going back to how you described Seattle, and I think that this has been essentially a rebuilding of Sky Blue. You've got some great players that they acquired with Becky. I hope that somehow she can transfer her success from the international level into club level, because I think she has that ability to be great in this league, and I hope that it can finally transfer over. So she's one of the players to watch. And then you mentioned Rebecca Stott. She had a great W League season, so I'm really excited to see how she does in the NWSL.
2 teams left. First team to talk about is Utah, coming out west from being FCKC. The word I have for Utah is elevate, and we've kind of talked about that some on here, about there are players on here that have never been truly in the spotlight, that after some moves that Utah has made, they are now in the spotlight, especially the player that I have to watch, which is to no surprise that I have Brittany Ratcliffe as my player to watch. Her now being maybe the main scorer on that team. Rodriguez coming back from injury, and Katie Bowen there as a forward position, but not a threatening forward there as much as Ratcliffe has showed flashes of. So now with her at the ball at her feet, what can she do for this Utah club? Can she elevate her game? Diana Matheson coming back from injury, where is she at in that? Alexa Newfield, who looked great at the start of the year last year, then tailed off a little bit. Can she elevate, get to the next level? And there's a handful of other players on this roster that it's their time. They can This can be a good team. We could also see them hang out at the bottom of the standings. I think if none of those players do elevate their play.
Yeah, and the word I have for them is hyped, being this team that ownership, general management has said, we're going to be treating you just like our men's side. So I hope that they can essentially live up to that hype in terms of being able to make everything work for them. Players to watch are Katie Stengel and Katrina Gorey. I think with this team, it's a matter of them being able to take the opportunity that they've been handed. They have this opportunity where they can score goals, and they have a lot of players that's not essentially their main focus, like of an Alex Morgan or someone who's a pure forward, but it's going to be on them to be able to step forward and say, let's do this. Because they can be, like you said, they can be top of the league, but they could also be sitting right there at the bottom.
Last team, Washington Spirit. Word I have for Washington is mesh. We see some really good talent coming over from the draft, the dispersal draft of the Breakers. We see some good talent coming over via trade. How do those mesh together? So Rose Lavelle, Ashley Hatch, two of the most dynamic players in the league, and that's just the name of the two. Where do they fit into the system?
Mm-hmm.
Do they work well together? Can they make it work over a season's time and be a team that, again, is capable of a lot? But if that doesn't work out, then it's going to be tough. Or injuries, obviously, with Lavelle is the big worry. Can she stay healthy enough to have this team compete at a top level?
Your player to watch?
Player to watch is Rose Lavelle for those reasons.
Yep. So I said future. They're a really young team that has the ability to be a really great team. They're pretty much stacked with talent. It's young talent, which is good and bad, because there's going to be, I would assume that there would be some growing pains that come along with it. Player to watch for me is Ashley Hatch. I'm ready for her to take kind of that big step forward. I think that this is her season to do so. And I think she's fully capable of doing that.
You got a 4 for the playoffs?
Man.
I have just a 2, and I think it's obvious with what I was saying.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a championship, a final matchup right now, it would be Sky Blue and it would be North Carolina Courage. It would be those two teams in the championship 2018.
You're very confident in Sky Blue, and for some reason I haven't gotten on that bandwagon yet. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll get there after this weekend.
I think it was probably a bit telling to me when a player like Maya Hayes says, you know what, as opposed to fighting for minutes, even though I'm used to be a top 3 player on this team, I'm going to just sit out this year and go back to school. So that to me was kind of eye-opening, as in there's a lot of talent on this team for Maya Hayes to decide to do something else for 1 year before coming back.
I feel like that is essentially almost every team's problem except for pretty much Houston. Every team seems like they're just stacked with talent this year, and it's a matter of how well they mesh together, how can they gel, and then staying healthy, and then being able to. It's going to be a lot of responsibility on the coaches. So I think we got to look at coaches too, and the success of teams this year, I think, is really going to depend on lineups and where coaches fit players in. Mm-hmm. I think that pretty much goes for almost every team.
So, preseason predictions?
So, it's so difficult because I feel like it should be Seattle and Orlando. For me, I feel like...
Okay, sounds good. Write that down.
Okay. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I feel like it should.
I'm giving you an opportunity to change that.
We'll keep it that way.
Who was it again?
Seattle and Orlando. Yeah. And somehow I am optimistic about the Dash. I really have no idea why.
Optimistic as in?
As in, like, we're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. Right?
There's 10th, sure.
Yeah, they will. Somehow, I'm optimistic about their season. I have no reason for it, though. Absolutely zero reason to be optimistic. I wrote no notes under them.
Under the Dash?
Notes. Yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm. And so that season starts on Saturday, the game of the week, North Carolina in Portland. They do play in Cary on Lifetime. That'll be at 2:30. And then there are 3 other games. So there is, I haven't even paid attention to who the bye team is.
Oh.
Sky Blue does not play this first weekend. Orlando and Utah play. Washington's at Seattle. And then the Red Stars on Sunday are in Houston. So that starts Saturday. What else is going on Saturday is the NCAA tournament. That we have a tournament challenge group going on ESPN.
Yeah. I haven't checked. I probably dead last. I have not checked it because I've been afraid.
This is the first night I've looked at that group. And I'm first.
Of course.
And you are third. You're only 20 points behind.
Only.
So it was. I didn't say anything when we made our final rounds of selections for the Final Four teams, but I was really hoping that you weren't going to go with Notre Dame because Kelsey Mitchell just came off like 40-point performances in a row or whatever it was, and I had dropped them previously in the year because I was 100% under the impression that just like what they have been for the last few years, they're not a complete team. They're carried by Kelsey Mitchell. They've always had a couple of really good role players, but they just can never put good basketball games in a row. That's what happened to them again.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw, but I did have Central Michigan beating Ohio State to go to the Sweet 16.
You did.
I did have them picked. Wow. So that's there. But I was really hoping you were going to pick Ohio State to be that team out of that region. That didn't happen.
Oh, no.
So I haven't looked at Ohio State's recruiting class. But now that Kelsey Mitchell is gone, and Ohio State again failed to get to the Sweet 16. We'll look up to see how many years he's been there, but I'm starting to think about Kevin McGuff's hot seat. So he had brought in a Tori McCoy last year, a center who looked like she was the next big thing at Ohio State, and she transferred out of the program. Now Kelsey Mitchell leaves. Kevin McGuff basically just let the best player in program history go without ever getting past the Sweet 16. So I'm wondering about how hot his seat is. And I'm thinking, if he gets halfway through next year and they're below 500, he might be the next Big Ten coach to be let go. Any thoughts on that?
Well, the thought on who's going to be the first Big Ten coach to go, I would say I would look at Maryland first. I think they've underperformed, at least essentially have been on a slow decline, at least in my mind. But I don't know if she's necessarily on the hot seat. I don't know what your thoughts are on Brenda Frese, but for me, I think that would be my first look at who's on the hot seat.
I would disagree.
Yeah. You would disagree?
Yeah, big Kayla Charles fan, and she's a sophomore now. I'm not really impressed by that roster besides her. So that you can attribute some of that to the recruiting and Freeze. But there's not a lot going on there. Pulling up the roster here, Kristen Confroy, who was the senior that played more last year than what she has this year, she now leaves, and that's going to put more minutes on Kaylee Charles, who's probably going to be averaging 35 minutes a game next year. I think Freeze is around at least until she graduates, so 2 more years of Charles' scoring ability. And yeah, I don't have any worries actually about her at College Park.
Yeah, but I think you're right with Ohio State. I think it's going to be difficult for me. I think for me, it's more or less difficult for me to see a firing in the middle of the season than it would be for them to just say, hey, you know what? Let's not even risk next season of the possibility of being under 500. Let's just let you go now and bring someone new in.
Yeah, and here are the seniors leaving: Stephanie Mavunga, Kelsey Mitchell, Lene Harper, Asia Doss, Alexa Hart. Those are the seniors. That is you put those 5 on the court together, and that should be a Final Four team.
Right. Right.
Yeah, no doubt, in my opinion. But yeah, again, big Central Michigan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Brag. So have them. I still have my Final Four. Do you still have your Final Four?
Do I still have my Final Four? The bracket, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And even who I picked at the beginning of this, or, last pick go around, I still have. It's all going to depend on Notre Dame and Oregon.
Mm-hmm. And big miss for me so far is South Florida, who did get upset by Buffalo, who put up 100 on the Bulls, and now Buffalo find themselves in the Sweet 16 to face the 2 seed South Carolina Gamecocks. That game is in 2 days. Yeah, but not a whole lot of numbers besides that in Central Michigan. So
Right.
two higher seeded teams, 2 11s actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts of it going forward? Anything been surprising to you? Talking about how UConn has sort of ruined women's basketball with their domination.
They've clearly have ruined the game, even though viewership is up since it's the highest it's been since 2008. So clearly they're ruining the game. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and that was a claim made by multiple sources this last week that we can get into.
Yeah, and the claim was made and then it wasn't backed up. So it's pretty much pointless to make if you're not going to back it up. It's great journalism.
Yeah, so as we go, we'll see if that comes up anymore. They played Lexi Brown and the Duke Blue Devils, who are, in my mind, similar to the Ohio State Buckeyes, and that's why I had dropped them about midway through the year. So we'll see if Lexi Brown can put enough of a game together to hang with UConn, and if any of those other players can step up for Duke. Another matchup to watch, and this is that other bracket that I had also talked about, which I think is actually doing better than my real bracket. Which is 85% on that one in the group, and then 95% in this other 96% in this other one, where I had NC State making a run to the Final Four. So NC State plays Mississippi State. Yeah. That game is tomorrow, so I'll keep my eye on that one, as well as UConn and Duke. Jordan Canada plays Texas with a chance to go to the Elite Eight as well, and then obviously those 2 11 seeds. So possibility for some upsets there.
Yeah. I've been pleasantly surprised by Baylor as well. I was not expecting the dominance of them to come through as much as it has. And we'll see what their game is going to be like against Oregon State. We'll see. I think that this is going to be their test, their big test without Christie.
Yeah, to see them really put a hurting on Michigan was a surprise.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they put up a lot of points against Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that starts tomorrow, and that'll run through the weekend. We'll have the Final Four set. We can talk some about that on Sunday. NWHL Championship will be this weekend as well, which we can get into. Maybe have another show dedicated to just hockey. Now that the college season has wrapped up, we can maybe have our hockey analysts come on and talk some about that. So, um, other than those sort of previews for this episode, anything else you want to go over
No, I'm good.
before things get too frozen?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, well, that's going to be it for us this evening then. And the way I've been going, it's up in the air if we'll be back on Sunday evening, but you'll either catch us on here Sunday or Thursday evening of the next week. So thank you for stopping by the Hera Press Box.